So I'm watching Bleach for the first time in my life and I'm about halfway done with the Arrancar arc. I had a lot of y'all telling me, yo, for the Arrancar arc, you gotta read the manga. You're gonna enjoy the arc so much more if you read the manga. And y'all were right, man. Y'all were right, 100% truth. I probably would have enjoyed this arc a lot more had I read the manga. But I didn't. I did not. My biggest problems with the arc actually ended up being the way the anime adapted the manga. And I'll get to that later on in the video because I got a whole yap session about it. But regardless, the Arrancar arc is still really good. Y'all gotta bear with me this video. I'm a little bit sick, bro. I feel like Ukitake. Not funny. Alright. So the Arrancar Arrival arc episode 1 just does a lot of foundational work. Lays out some important details for later on in the story. Number 1, Tatsuki can now see Soul Reapers. This is similar to the first arc when Orihime and Chad, they both got their powers. They really couldn't see hollows and Soul Reapers at first, and I don't know why Tatsuki developed this ability. Maybe we'll find out later on in the arc. So far it hasn't really been that important, and to be 100% honest with y'all, I did not think that Tatsuki would be relevant past the first arc. That's why I never mentioned her. But way more importantly, you got Shinji, who's a transfer student, and he sits down next to Ichigo. I thought his haircut was stupid. He has a weird design. He creeps me out. He's a really cool guy though. I really liked his character. And finally, you got my go Uryu, who did in fact lose his spiritual energy in the Soul Society arc in his battle against the captain, but later on he's getting chased down by a hollow and he's fighting for his life, and he gets saved by a Quincy, and it turns out it's his deadbeat dad. And then in the second episode of the Arrancar arc, we start getting even more foundational pieces getting laid out. We got the return of the great Grand Fisher, the hollow that killed Ichigo's mom, and this time he has a Zanpakuto. What the hell? Like, how does he have a Zanpakuto, bro? He's a hollow. But he gets defeated by a Soul Reaper, and that Soul Reaper with ease slashed him one blow, and it turned out it was Ichigo's dad. This episode was so chaotic, bro. I thought it was filler, but it wasn't. It was a canon episode. It was real. This actually happened. And while all of that was happening, Ichigo was back close to home outside chilling, and he was confronted by Shinji, who tried to kill him. He pulled out a sword on him. This long ass explanation just to basically break down the difference between Arrancars and Visoreds. So Shinji is a Visored, and he's basically a Soul Reaper that has the ability to holofy himself, and he shows off the hollow mask just like Ichigo has. In contrast with Grand Fisher, who's a hollow that now has a Zanpakuto. So basically Visoreds are Soul Reapers that are trying to get the power of hollows, and Arrancars are hollows that are trying to get the power of Soul Reapers. The entire premise of it is actually really cool. I enjoyed it, and we'll see Visoreds and Arrancars fight each other throughout the arc, don't worry. But anyways, Shinji asks Ichigo, yo, I got the same power as you. I'm asking you, bro. Actually, I'm not even asking you. I'm telling you, yo, you're gonna become a Visor just like me. Ichigo of course denies it, whatever, they go on about their day. And we flip back to Ichigo's dad. After defeating Grand Fisher, he is confronted by Urahara, and they know each other. So Ichigo's dad is a Soul Reaper strong enough to be recognized by Urahara. More than anything, I want to see these two at their full potential. I saw a little bit of Urahara scrapping, and I saw a little bit of Ichigo's dad, but I need to see both of them at full power, really fighting for real. The next day, Shinji is still in school, and he's still sitting next to Ichigo. Ichigo's like, yo, what is this dude's problem? Why does he keep stalking me? Shinji flat out tells him, yo, I'm gonna get what I want no matter how hard you deny. It's like, all right, buddy, you know, calm down. All right. And this is where Shinji confirms Ichigo has an inner hollow living inside of him. This was, pretty obvious, but the confirmation never hurts. Ichigo has an inner hollow living inside of him. And around this time, we also meet Hiyori, who is a Visor just like Shinji, and she is demanding that they take Ichigo by force. They want Ichigo. But more importantly, y'all, we finally get the scene where Uryu meets up with his dad, and he says, I agree. I won't associate with Soul Reapers anymore. Just give me my Quincy powers back. I'm like, I know that's not gonna last long, buddy. You're gonna associate with Soul Reapers. The MC's a Soul Reaper, bro. You're not just gonna fall off the face of the earth. And you'll see later on how Uryu does manage to associate with Ichigo throughout the arc without breaking the promise that he made his dad. But I'm just worried how long it's gonna last. Anyways, now we got one of the main conflicts of this arc. Ulquiorra and Yami come from Hueco Mundo and touch down in the world of the living. So there is this massive pulse of spiritual energy. Everybody starts feeling it. You see everybody's different reactions. It's the Arrancar. They are finally here, and on arrival they create this massive crater, which of course, people with no spiritual pressure, they can't sense spiritual energy, they don't see anything. They're like, what caused this crater? They don't know that they are about to die. So the Arrancars just kill everybody. Everybody dies. Except for Tatsuki, who is there. Remember, Tatsuki can kind of feel spiritual presence now, so she is the sole survivor. And she is saved by Chad and Orihime, who are the first ones to arrive on the spot. These guys are now about to scrap with some Arrancars. And I'm sure you can imagine how that's about to turn out for Chad. He got his arm blown off. Anyways, Orihime starts doing her healing thing on everybody, and Ulquiorra suggests something that I found really interesting, because it's the first time that we we got Orihime's power kind of explained, at least a theory as to what it was. And Ulquiorra suggested it could be some space-time manipulation. I'm like, okay, you know, that's way out of I thought it was just some healing shit. You know, space and time manipulation? That's crazy. That is a crazy power. We get the next person to show up, and it is Ichigo. He saves Orihime and Chad. And when he gets there, he does a little bit of boxing with Yami, and Ulquiorra is just sitting back. And I'm thinking, okay, if they're both Arrancars, then they gotta be similar in strength. And I think this is the same problem that I made with the captains. When I watched the Soul Society arc, I made the mistake of thinking just because all 13 are captains and they got the same position, they are the same strength level. No, I was wrong. Captain Aizen was way stronger than every other captain there. And unfortunately, I did make the same mistake here. I thought, okay, Ichigo just cut off Yami's arm. He's about to take on Ulquiorra and send him back to Hueco Mundo. No, Ulquiorra was just sitting there because he knows that he could kill Ichigo right now if he wanted to, but that wasn't the mission. The reason that Ulquiorra and Yami were sent to the world of the living was because Aizen wanted to keep tabs on Ichigo, not for his strength level currently, but because of his progression, which is something that I mentioned watching the first 20 episodes of Bleach. I'm like, Ichigo is moving like crazy. He's improving insane right now. But during this fight, what Shinji mentioned, Ichigo's inner hollow starts messing with him and starts trying to take over. But this time, it's not the same as the Soul Society. Remember in the Soul Society, when the hollow took over, it started beating Byakuya's ass, but this time it's just messing with Ichigo. It's paralyzing him and it's making him unable to box with Yami. Ulquiorra even drops an interesting piece of dialogue while Ichigo's spiritual pressure is fluctuating. He says at his lowest, Ichigo is no more than trash, but at his highest, Ichigo's spiritual energy is even more than his own. Anyways, now that Ichigo is unable to fight with the Arrancars because the inner hollow within him is taken over, he has to get saved. This time he gets saved by Yoruichi and Urahara, and this is the first time that we get to see Urahara fight even a little bit. Urahara let off this attack from his Zanpakuto, and it was so strong that Ulquiorra, who was just sitting back watching everything unfold, had to step in and deflect it with his hand. I love that moment. It was a showcase of both of their strength. The fact that Ulquiorra was able to step up and backhand Urahara's attack like that, I love Ulquiorra. He is so swag. But the Arrancars end up just going back to Hueco Mundo. They already got the intel that they wanted, that they needed. I should also mention that the hierarchy of Menos Grande got explained within this part as well. But after the Arrancar retreat, you really get to dial in on how Ichigo's been feeling about the whole situation, and he is depressed. He is sad. He cannot believe that the hollow inside of him is taking over and causing him to mess up his fights. And you could see how what Shinji said about the hollow taking over and hurting his friends, it's been weighing him down. Anyways, we get a cut back to Ichigo back in his school life, etc. He's in class. Toshiro, Renji, Rukia, Rangiku, Ikaku, and the other one that thinks he's pretty are all in the real world. I finally get to see some of my goats back. Ikaku is back. I really did not think that we would see Ikaku past the Soul Society arc, but he has a major part in this arc. Rukia is back, and Toshiro, my goat. Somebody said Toshiro in your top 5 favorites is crazy. He was the only one putting in work during that Aizen case. He was the one that pieced it all together. What a genius, man. I love Toshiro, and his Bankai is my favorite. Regardless, Rukia notices that Ichigo is not in the mood. He's not feeling like himself. She's like, yo, let's go out there and kill a random ass hollow. So Rukia and Ichigo, they go out there, they kill a random ass hollow. Rukia's like, do you feel better? Ichigo's like, yeah, I think I feel better. They all meet up at Ichigo's crib and they explain to him, yo, the reason that we're actually here in the real world is because we gotta get ready for when it's wartime. When the Arrancars come through again, we gotta be ready to scrap with them. And I love Toshiro. I love the lineup that they sent. They later on explained why they sent the people that they did, but I was just kind of salty. I'm like, yo, y'all got the strong ass Arrancars out here ready for wartime, and y'all didn't even think to send Kenpachi, my goat. Y'all know that he would have loved to fight somebody strong like the Arrancar, and y'all ain't send him out there. I was a little bit salty. In the meantime though, we get a really important scene. We got Ulquiorra and Hueco Mundo coming back from his mission in the real world, and he shows Aizen and all 20 of his Vasto Lordes the intel that he acquired. And this is where we are introduced to my other GOAT. I've called so many people a GOAT in this video, but I really love the Bleach cast. There's so many heavy hitters. Grimmjow sees what Ulquiorra brought back and he's like, wait, you're telling me you didn't kill Ichigo? Ulquiorra is like, yo, Aizen told us to kill anybody that's a threat. I didn't think that Ichigo was a threat. And Grimmjow's like, you are soft. I would have killed him. Look, he ripped an arm off Yami and you're telling me he's not a threat? You've gone soft, bro. And then Grimmjow shows up with a group of Arrancars ready to just kill anybody that shows semblance of spiritual energy. It's about to start. They're about to scrap. Arrancars start to show up to everybody's location. Keep in mind, nobody went to stay with Chad. So Rukia and Ichigo hauled ass, made sure to get over to Chad's place. Chad damn near died. He is saved by Ichigo tells him, yo, you gotta stay back, I'm about to handle this. And it was sad, bro. We get a sad moment with Chad. He's like, damn, I can't have Ichigo's back the way he has mine. I gotta get stronger. And I love that mindset. It's an amazing that's a great friend right there. That's a great friend. But Rukia tells Ichigo, yo, you stand back because you got that inner hollow in you. I don't know what's gonna happen during this fight. I got this. And at this point, I'm realizing this is the first time I'm about to see Rukia fight for real in the series. I didn't even think about that. First time I'm about to see Rukia fight. She pulls out her Zanpakuto. Her Shikai is an ice type Zanpakuto. I love ice type users, bro. That's why I love Toshiro. And now that I know that Rukia uses ice as well, I love Rukia even more, bro. But she handles the Arrancar with ease. It turns out that she's actually misseated and she's seated lower than how strong she actually is. But after Rukia handled the Arrancar, I'm like, okay, you know, they won. Grimmjow shows up on them. Dude, I was not expecting for them to get hit with a two-piece. I was like, dude, when Grimmjow showed up, I'm like, are they really gonna do this? Bro, I know that they ain't ready to fight with Grimmjow. But before we get Grimmjow's first fight, we actually got a couple fights that the Soul Reapers are taking part of, and my favorite one being the Ikkaku fight. Ikkaku finds himself with Ichigo's classmate who's out at night buying a soda, and Ikkaku's like, yo, if I handle this Arrancar, I gotta stay at your place, bro. One thing I was not expecting was for Ikkaku to be funny, but another thing that I was not expecting is for Ikkaku to have Bankai. We get a couple flashbacks during this time. We get Ikkaku, how he met Kenpachi, his time spent under Kenpachi, Renji telling Ikkaku, yo, you gotta become a captain, you're the only one of us that knows Bankai. And we find out that the only reason Ikkaku ain't a captain is because he knows if he becomes a captain, then he can't serve under Kenpachi, man. And I love that loyalty. Back to the fight though, Ikkaku's kind of getting whooped. The Arrancar releases his Zanpakuto. Turns out an Arrancar's release Zanpakuto is not the same as the Soul Reapers. They kind of get like roided up and they become this primal version of themselves. Even though Vasto Lordes are supposed to be the most human-like, once they release their Zanpakuto, they get kind of like big, burly, and like monstrous though. Regardless, this Arrancar with the release Zanpakuto, he ain't enough for Ikkaku and his Bankai. He won that fight. It was crazy, bro. And keep in mind, you got the other Soul Reapers fighting their Arrancars as well. You got Renji, Rangiku, and you got Toshiro. He's a captain, but they're struggling even with Bankai. Rangiku makes a call to the Soul Society though, and they grant them Gentei Kaijo. So during the Soul Society arc, when Renji was fighting Ichigo, he said something that completely went over my head, and it's crazy. There's still stuff in the Soul Society arc that I missed. Renji told Ichigo, yo, us Soul Reapers in the real world, we are 5 times weaker, and what that Gentei Kaijo does is release that weakness. It releases that nerf, and it basically made them 5 times stronger. And after they got that Gentei Kaijo buff, they all handled their Arrancar easily. But keep in mind, Ikkaku's the only one that beat his Arrancar without Gentei Kaijo. Anyways, the Arrancar that Toshiro was fighting ends up explaining to him the hierarchy of the Espada. If your number is 11 or after, it kind of really doesn't even matter. If you are 10 or above, you are part of the Espada, but the lower your number is, the stronger you are. Anyways, now that we got all the side fights out the way, we cut back. Grimmjow, Ichigo. Grimmjow's like, which one of y'all is the strongest? And he speed blitzes Rukia and tries to kill her. He's like, damn, it's not her. So Grimmjow and Ichigo start fighting, and Grimmjow, of course, whooping Ichigo's ass. You can't keep up, bro. Even with Bankai, this is an Arrancar we're talking about, and his number will be revealed soon. He's up there. Now that I said that, I realized that his number is actually on the lower end. It's on the lower end of the 1 through 10 scale. So maybe, you know, Grimmjow's one of the weaker ones, bro. That's crazy. Still whooping Ichigo's ass. It doesn't matter. Ichigo's getting his ass whooped here and there. He's not going into his hollow mode. He's trying not to. But he lets off a Getsuga Tensho, which is strong enough to put a scar on Grimmjow's chest. But even though Ichigo's getting whooped here, I know, you know, this is the MC. I know he isn't gonna die here. Something's gonna happen. Somebody's gonna save him. But what happened next is not what I was expecting. Tozen comes out of Hueco Mundo, and he's the one that stops Grimmjow. In my head, I'm thinking, what is going on, bro? Why did Tozen just stop Grimmjow? He's about to kill Ichigo. Grimmjow went out with the Arrancar behind Aizen's back. He didn't have permission to do that. And Tozen takes his ass back to Daddy Aizen to get spanked, bro, to get a whooping. Like that's it. That's how the fight ends. Ichigo was getting whooped though. He was really getting his ass handed to him, bro. Even with Bankai activated, it didn't matter. Anyways, back in Hueco Mundo in Las Noches, right? You got Grimmjow, Aizen, Tozen, and Grimmjow faces the punishment, bro. Tozen rips off his arm, and he rips off his arm in a way that cannot be reattached normally. Yami's arm got ripped off. It got reattached. Grimmjow's cannot be reattached. Keep that in mind. We cut back to the main cast. Rukia got healed up by Orihime. Ichigo asked Rukia, yo, what should I do about this power? Rukia's like, I don't know, bro. You go deal with it. So he does deal with it. He ends up going and finding the Visored for help. I don't know why. The whole time I thought the Visored were a villain group. I suppose that's how they painted them out to be, with Shinji attacking Ichigo on the first night. But I thought that they were a villain group, and they're not. They actually helped out Ichigo. So they help him out with his hollow training, and it involves him having to go into his inner self and fighting that white version of himself, that inner hollow Ichigo. They have a pretty good fight. Ichigo, of course, ends up on top. He ends up mastering a little bit of his power. The hollow Ichigo tells him, you better stay on your feet, because the second that I sense weakness and I feel like I can take over your body, I'm gonna take over that body, bro. So it's gonna happen. Like, it's gonna happen. And also, while Ichigo was in training his physical body, it really got hollowified again, just like the substitute Shinigami arc. He really became a hollow. This time he had a settle at his fingertips, bro. He had a settle in hand. If Ichigo can get to a point where he can go into his hollified form and start blasting off settles, he's gonna be crazy. Like, he's gonna be insane. We do get a scene around this time where Orihime, Toshiro, and Rangiku are at their crib, and they call the bald old man head honcho of the Soul Society, and he tells them, yo, Aizen's plan, he's gonna wipe out the whole city, bro. It's gonna be gone. Goodbye. And we also get to see Momo for the first time since the Soul Society arc, and unfortunately, she starts talking. Toshiro, can you save Aizen? I feel like he's a good guy. Like, you better shut up, bro. Aizen is planning the downfall of all of humanity as we speak, and you're talking about, can you save him? You better, we're about to kill him. I don't know how they're gonna do it though. I don't know how anybody in this series is touching Aizen levels of strength. The only people I can see doing it is Ichigo, of course, the MC. He's gonna be able to do it. Kenpachi, when he masters Bankai, I know it's gonna happen, bro. Kenpachi is gonna learn Bankai. Don't even worry about it. And maybe Yamamoto, but I really don't know. I haven't seen either of them fight for real. Around this time, we also see the birth of Wonderweiss. He hasn't done anything so far, but I know that they wouldn't just show his birth and have him be kind of this weird Arrancar type guy if he didn't become important later on in the story. I really like his design. I love his name. He could be really cool. He could be one of my favorite characters. But it's all up to what Kubo decides to do with Wonderweiss later on down the line. But we get another Arrancar invasion, the second one this time. Grimmjow is back. He don't care about the mission. He don't care about nothing at all. He just wants to fight Ichigo again. But this time his role as an Espada has been stripped. He's no longer number 6. This is what he gets for betraying Aizen. Anyways, we get another round of Arrancar fights. I don't know what to say. A lot of them didn't move me. You got a new number 6. It's this little kid that looks like a girl, but he's a boy and he has tentacles and stuff like that, and he gets whooped by Toshiro. And we also get to see Urahara again pull up and start whooping some ass. I really want to see a full Urahara fight. Y'all don't understand how bad I want to see that, but mainly the point of this being Grimmjow versus Ichigo part 2. And this time Ichigo can turn into a hollow for a whopping 11 seconds. Hey, don't diss it though. During those 11 seconds that Ichigo had that hollow mask on, he was whooping Grimmjow's ass. The difference between the first fight to the second fight where Ichigo had the hollow mask on, night and day. But those 11 seconds, they ran out though, and once those 11 seconds ran out, Ichigo was in trouble. But this time the person that comes to Ichigo's rescue is Rukia, but she don't really do much. So the person that comes to save him after that is Shinji. And here we get Shinji versus Grimmjow. I love this fight. We got a Visored versus an Arrancar, and Shinji started whooping that Grimmjow ass. He even pulled out the settle on him. A Visored pulling out the settle. It gave me hope that Ichigo is gonna bust one of these out in the future. More than anything, that's what this fight was to me. It served as a window to see how strong Ichigo will become in the future and what Ichigo will be capable of. Grimmjow deflected the settle with his own settle, and then he said, no more Mr. Nice Guy. No more base Grimmjow. He was about to release his Zanpakuto and he got stopped by Ulquiorra. Ulquiorra stopped Grimmjow and he told him, the mission is done. It's over. Let's go back to Hueco Mundo. What I didn't tell y'all about Ulquiorra is throughout all of this second Arrancar invasion, Ulquiorra was capturing Orihime. He ended up catching Orihime and 2 security guards lacking between the world of the living and the Soul Society. And there he told Orihime, yo, I'm gonna give you this bracelet. It's gonna make you invisible. You can say goodbye to one person. Meet me at this location. The reason for this is that Aizen took interest in her powers when he saw them scrap for the first time. And that scene where Ulquiorra found Orihime and the 2 security guards is really where you get like a glimpse as to how dark this arc is about to be. He straight up just murdered murdered one of the guards from the Soul Society. He just killed him in front of Orihime. So now Orihime is invisible. She can say goodbye to one person, and of course she chooses Ichigo. We get a really cute scene where Orihime is telling Ichigo in 5 different lives she would still fall in love with the same person over and over and over again. And she heals Ichigo's wounds that he sustained in his fight with Grimmjow before heading off to Hueco Mundo with Ulquiorra. Around this time, we also get a scene where Tatsuki finds Ichigo and she asks him, yo, what happened to Orihime? She mentions how she felt her presence disappear. And Ichigo is playing dumb. He's telling her that he doesn't know what she's talking about, this, that, the third. Tatsuki breaks Ichigo's head by punching him in the face and breaking his skull against the window. The Soul Society is aware that Orihime is now in Hueco Mundo, but the way that it was planned out, the way that Orihime got to Hueco Mundo where she could say goodbye to one person and had to meet Ulquiorra at a designated location, made it look like she turned on them on her own will. And we later find out Aizen did this on purpose. He planned this out on purpose. He didn't want the Soul Society intervening. Dude, Aizen is so smart, bro. But because of the way that Orihime left, the Soul Society said that it is not in their best interest to send in reinforcements to help save Orihime. Ichigo is on his own. But this is Ichigo we're talking about. Remember earlier on in the arc, Ichigo said, Orihime, I will protect you always. I won't let anything happen to you. So of course Ichigo had to go to Hueco Mundo. It didn't matter if he was by himself. It didn't matter if he had nobody with him. He had to go to Hueco Mundo and save Orihime by any means possible. So Ichigo finds Urahara. Urahara, of course, the method man, the plug, he knows everything. Urahara knows the way to send Ichigo to Hueco Mundo right now. But before Ichigo enters Hueco Mundo, Chad comes out. He says, nah, I'm going with you. Chad has been training this whole time. Throughout these fights, Chad was training with Renji. And Uryu back again, got his spiritual energy back, got his Quincy powers back after getting shot by his deadbeat dad point blank in the chest. I don't know, that's the method to get Quincy abilities, I guess. That's how you do it. So Urahara fires off the gateway to make it a Hueco Mundo. Just those 3, Ichigo, Chad, Uryu. They don't even have Orihime. They don't have Yoruichi. So they are going into Hueco Mundo with less people, less reinforcements than what they had in the Soul Society arc. In my mind, I'm thinking this is literally impossible. This is impossible. I'm seeing the parallels between the Arrancar arc and the Soul Society arc. Obviously, it's like 2 rescue missions, one for Rukia, one for Orihime into the Soul Society, but this one into Hueco Mundo. But I'm not seeing how they would end similarly at all. Remember, Ichigo went into the Soul Society and he became friends with Renji, Ikkaku, Kenpachi. 2 captains had the same goal as him, to destroy the Sogyoku. So along the Soul Society arc, he got help, but I can't see the same thing with the Arrancar arc. I can't imagine an Arrancar helping him outside of maybe Grimmjow, but you know, I will find that out as I keep watching, don't worry. But they end up making it to Hueco Mundo safely, and then we get a fight here with Chad and Uryu between 2 Arrancars. This fight was kind of dragged out. Ichigo was told to sit back, watch. I'm pretty sure this fight was just a power showcase to see what Chad and Uryu learned during training, but this is just the beginning of fights getting dragged out throughout this arc, and it's something that I can kind of separate away from Bleach because I know that this isn't Kubo's vision. Kubo did not want these fights to be dragged out for as long as they were. It's only a problem with the anime adaptation. It's not a problem with the Bleach series itself, so I can separate that. But regardless, there really were some fights, especially later on in this arc, that really pushed that to the limit. But Uryu, Chad, they win their respective fights and they make it out the underground. They're now in the sandy area of Hueco Mundo. I gotta say, I love the way that Hueco Mundo looks, bro. I would love to live there. But they gotta make their way over to Las Noches. By the way, everything in this arc is Spanish motif. You got the Espada, you got Sonido, Las Noches, Donde está el baño, I love culo, stuff like that, right? Even the soundtrack in this arc, I thought before in the Soul Society, the soundtrack was amazing, but this arc added some new tracks that are straight heaters. The OST in this arc is so good, bro. I love it. I love it. Anyways, they're all making their way over to Aizen's crib and they find themselves with 3 hollows. I don't think they'll be that important, but Nell is the one that we got to talk about. Nell, I do think will be important. They're literally like a baby human. I don't know if I'm looking too deep into it, but when we look back and see how they describe the hierarchy of Menos Grande, the Vasto Lordes are the ones that look the most like humans. Nell literally looks like a human baby. Like, jokes aside though, and just genuine question at this point, Nell is perceived to be weak. She can't do nothing. She's just a baby. But how can she be weak and look like a human baby? If you look like a human, you're a Vasto Lorde. Am I tripping? That's how they described it. They're the most human-like in features. Anyways, they continue to make their way to Las Noches. They get into some trouble with this sand deity and whatnot. Ichigo gets saved by Rukia again. Rukia and Renji pulled up from the Soul Society, and it's hinted that Byakuya was the one that let them, you know, let them go on their way. By the way, that's something that I noticed about this arc. I don't know if it's gonna play a role or something, but Ichigo, every fight except his last one with Grimmjow, is getting saved, is getting helped. Something is it's a clear, drastic difference from the Soul Society arc where Ichigo was handling everything on his own. Anyways, they end up making it to Las Noches until they encounter a fork in the road, and Rukia suggests, yo, we all gotta go our separate ways. Nell goes after Ichigo, the other Hollows go after Uryu and Renji. Then we get to the point where the arc really starts to drag. It starts to stretch out the episodes. Like, we don't want to see all of this. First fight we get is Ichigo versus Arrancar number 527. I'm thinking this guy's a weakling, this guy's a bum, you got a low number. Turns out if your number is 3 digits, that makes you a former Espada. It takes Ichigo not just using his Bankai, but entering his holified form to fight him. Even though the guy ends up saying, you probably could have beat me with just your Bankai, you gave me the pleasure of seeing your holified form. Then the next fights are the ones that really start to drag for real, because Chad also goes up against the former Espada, Uryu goes up against the former Espada, and these fights' main purpose is just to show, oh, Uryu got a power up, he's using a lightsaber or something. Chad got a power up, he's got a holified arm or something like that, which seems really interesting, but it didn't need to take 3 episodes, especially the Uryu fight. That fight, majority of it was just padded out with really bad jokes from the Hollow that was with him, whatever his name is. The fights don't really serve to progress the story. At least in the Soul Society arc, you had a fight going on. Number 1, it progressed the story, and number 2, you had something going on in the background, whether it be the death of Aizen, that plot line going on, or Rukia's execution date being moved up, etc. But anyways, all of them win their fights, of course. Rukia ends up finding somebody who's actually an Espada, not a former Espada, a real deal Espada. And this Hollow is able to mimic, mock, access Kain's memory, because Kain came into Hueco Mundo and he ended up eating his holified body, something like that. This fight did drag on as well, but I felt like this fight had some character development in it. And hear me out, Rukia ended up coming on top against, a real current Espada. Is that not a crazy accomplishment? Is that not ridiculous? And number 2, she didn't need to use Bankai. I don't even know if Rukia can use Bankai. It would be cool if she could, but she hasn't shown it yet. So far, all she's done is her Shikai release. But now that we got the side fights out the way, wrapped it up real quick. Y'all let me know if I missed something. Y'all let me know if I'm really wrong and these fights are actually so important to the story. I can't see it. Maybe I'm wrong, but I haven't finished the Arrancar Saga entirely just yet. But now it's time to focus specifically on the main man himself, Ichigo. It's about damn time that we got to see Ichigo face off with Ulquiorra. Oh my god, I love this moment. Ichigo's telling Ulquiorra, yo, you better get out of my way. I have no reason to fight you. Ulquiorra's like, what if I told you I'm the one that brought Orihime here, bro? That's what makes Ichigo snap Hollow Mask and all visor mode activated. Getsuga Tenshos dropping everywhere. Ulquiorra is deflecting them 1 hand, 2 hands, but Ichigo can only stay in this form for a couple seconds, and after it is not enough. Ulquiorra is still standing and he goes, this is a disappointment. Y'all are gonna say I'm glazing, and guess what? I most definitely am. Ulquiorra is one of the coldest characters in Bleach. I love his design. I love the music that comes on when he's on screen. I love his motive. I love his demeanor. I love his style. I love his everything, bro. He's so cool. But whatever, then he starts kicking Ichigo's ass. After that, he just started whooping Ichigo to the point that he stabbed Ichigo through his chest, left him there to die. Ichigo's like, if I can just kill you, then I would have beaten the big dog, thinking that Ulquiorra is number 1. I thought the same thing. I thought that Ulquiorra was number 1. Removes his cloak, he's number 4. But I guess that makes sense. My theory is that Aizen is 1, Gin is 2, and Tozen is 3. I could be wrong though. Maybe there are different characters that are 1 through 3, but that's my prediction. Anyways, Ulquiorra kills Ichigo right there and then. He just kills him. He just leaves him there to die. And then we cut back to Grimmjow. He enters Orihime's room. I'm like, what is Grimmjow gonna do in Orihime's room? She's getting picked on by a couple of Arrancars that are jealous because Aizen has his eyes on Orihime and not them. Grimmjow walks in the room, disintegrates one of them with a settle point blank to the face, and then Seth Rollins curb stomps the other. Now keep in mind, I haven't brought this up, but remember when Grimmjow got his arm torn off, Orihime was the one that healed it for him. And Grimmjow tells Orihime, yo, that's just me paying back the favor, but now I got some for you. So he kidnaps Orihime, takes her out the room, and takes Orihime straight to Ichigo. Not because he's a good guy, not because he wants to help Ichigo, not for none of those reasons. He wants Orihime to heal Ichigo back from the dead so he could beat his ass ass one more time. Grimmjow is generational. Hey, I love Grimmjow. Orihime ends up doing it though. She's healing Ichigo, but Ulquiorra has already found out that Orihime is missing, so he goes back to the site where he left Ichigo to die, and he finds Grimmjow, Orihime, and Ichigo all there. He's like, what are you doing? So Grimmjow and Ulquiorra get into an altercation. Grimmjow's number 6, Ulquiorra's number 4. Ulquiorra's about to beat his ass, so Grimmjow, you know, he can't beat him in a fight. He had to default to using this little cube that sends him to another dimension for 2 hours. And then Orihime gets back to healing Ichigo, gets him back to full strength. You got Orihime, you got Nell, Ichigo, Grimmjow, they're all there. And Ichigo and Grimmjow decide to scrap for the 3rd time so far. This is probably the peak of Bleach up until now. This fight was so well animated. I love the motives behind it. Grimmjow's telling Ichigo, yo, you came here because you love to fight. Don't act like you came here to rescue Orihime. You also want to fight. I know you love to fight. You love to box. And Ichigo stayed in that hollow version of himself for like damn near 5.5 hours. I don't know how long he stayed in that, but it was far more than 11 seconds. Even they mentioned it. Yo, it looks like you can keep up for more than 11 seconds now. My thing with the whole situation is that Ichigo, he's strong. He clearly got a lot stronger, and if he can maintain that hollow form, then he's gonna be a big time threat. But this is still no Aizen. Think about it. Ichigo is going even with Grimmjow even after his Zanpakuto release, and Grimmjow is number 6. At this point in the arc, Ichigo still can't go toe to toe with Ulquiorra, and Ulquiorra is still at full health, and Ichigo just finished a fight with Grimmjow. Ichigo won the fight, of course. We got a pretty backstory as to Grimmjow's past, his development from a Gillian all the way up to a Vasto Lorde, and that's where I left off. After the final fight that Ichigo won, him and Orihime are looking off into the distance, but I know that this arc is about to turn up. It cannot be that easy. Ichigo saved Orihime, quote unquote, but I'm only halfway through the arc. I know something happens. Is Ulquiorra gonna come back and say, nah, now you gotta fight me now? Because what's gonna happen when that's the case? You know, at this point, the whole crew is beat up, and we're stuck in Hueco Mundo. We got no reinforcements. We got no healers. Orihime is the only healer, but she's not gonna heal Rukia, who's dead on the other side of the map. Chad is still knocked down after his encounter with the Espada. Uryu and Renji are still stuck in that long ass drawn out fight. So I decided to leave off here because I thought it was the perfect time to break this in half, because I know what's gonna happen in the later part of this arc. It's lining up to be peak. We got the victory over Grimmjow, but that's just a small part of what this arc is supposed to be. We're supposed to get Orihime there and back. And now you got Ichigo and Orihime, but they're both weak. Everyone's back is against the wall, and they're stuck in Hueco Mundo. What's gonna happen? Who's gonna save them? I'm thinking at this point, Urahara's just gonna show up. He took the portal there too. But yeah, this arc so far from what I've seen, and I'm only halfway through the Arrancar Saga, the Hueco Mundo arc on paper is really good. And on paper, literally, like on the manga, I imagine it's amazing. The only thing holding it back is the pacing issues, but once again, I watched One Piece without One Piece, so you know, not that big of a deal for me. But I can understand why people say, this arc is kind of boring, this, that, the third. It's not boring, it's just drawn out at certain parts, but I can separate that. The fact of the matter is that Ichigo versus Grimmjow so far has been the peak of Bleach. Strongest Ichigo's ever looked versus the strongest opponent he's faced so far. I'm enjoying the arc. I appreciate everybody that told me to read the manga. Y'all were really looking out for me. But the pacing is literally the only problem that I have with the Hueco Mundo arc, and I can look past it. So to answer the question, how good is the Hueco Mundo arc actually? It's really good. I highly recommend it. I don't want to say it's better than Soul Society yet. I love Soul Society. It was so good. I still have Soul Society like a solid 2 to 3 notches above the Hueco Mundo arc, but that's only halfway through the Arrancar Saga. We still have the remaining 3 segments of the Arrancar Saga. So I'll get back to y'all next video with my updated thoughts, hopefully after I've completed the entirety of the Arrancar Saga and I could give you my thoughts on the arc as a whole. It's been great so far, but I know the second half is really where the Arrancar Saga is going to turn up, because I know for a fact we have not hit that crescendo yet. I'm still hoping that we get to see Ichigo versus Ulquiorra going for real. We got to see Ulquiorra released. I need to see that. That would feed families. But I've talked for way too long. 35 minutes about to be. I know that y'all said y'all like the longer videos. I don't know how much of this I'm going to cut up, but I'm really glad y'all are appreciating the longer videos. It allows me to cover more about Bleach more in depth and make less videos, so I feel like I'm not clogging up y'all sub box. But anyways, y'all, thank y'all once again for tuning in. I'll see y'all in the next part when I finish the Arrancar Saga. Thank y'all for watching. Take care, y'all.